Russia is a very big country, biggest in the world in fact, but just 500 years ago, it was a principality that had just broken off from part of the wreckage of the Mongol Empire. But it would eventually conquer so much uninhabitable lands that it would actually mean something. So just how did this Eastern Slavic principality come to conquer Northern and Central Asia, become a major player in the Pacific, and eventually make itself into a world superpower, all the while being actually quite ethnically diverse? Brought to you by CuriosityStream. The year is 1480. What we will eventually know as Russia was the Grand Duchy of Moscow, which had just gained its independence after kicking out the last of Mongol rule in the Great Stand on the Ugra. The Grand Duchy at this time had gradually expanded from the area in and around Moscow until it had already encompassed much of the easternmost stretches of Europe, all the way up to the Arctic Ocean port of Arkhangelsk. Too bad it was basically useless as a port though. Moscow itself, however, was in a quite vulnerable position, since it sits in the widest part of the North European plain, a massive expanse of flatland extending all across the northern half of Europe from France to modern-day Russia. And let me tell you, as someone who lives in one of these cities, it's pretty goddamn flat up here. As Poland knows all too well, this leaves any city or nation situated up here critically vulnerable to attack. This includes the Russian heartland itself. Thus, Moscow gradually started to expand its influence as far as it needed to in order to not be attacked and conquered. Again, after becoming the Tsardom of Russia in 1547, Russia started to expand through a variety of means, including but not limited to Cossack exploration, purchasing land, Cossack diplomacy, straight-up conquest, Cossack conquest, turning their neighbors into puppet states, and many other different ways, largely involving Cossacks. In 1552, the Khanate of Kazan was conquered at the end of the Russo-Kazan Wars, and then in 1556, the Khanate of Astrakhan fell to Russian forces, with the former capital city of Khas-Tarkhan being burned by Ivan the Terrible, and built anew as Astrakhan a few kilometers to the south, with Russia now reaching all the way to the Caspian Sea. Along the way, of course, numerous different fortresses or ostrogs were built, so far including the modern-day cities of Tyumen and Tobolsk, which were each established as ostrogs in 1586. In 1592, Fyodor I launched the conquest of the Khanate of Sibir, a vital first step in the conquest of Siberia. Yeniseisk was established in 1619, as well as Krasnoyarsk in 1628 and Yakutsk in 1632. Cossack missions in Siberia made a lot of progress during this time, eventually reaching the Pacific Ocean by 1639, and filling everything in a bit later. In 1667, Russia shaved a few territories off of Poland and Lithuania, and the Kazim Khanate was conquered in 1681. Kiev and Zaporizhia were then fully incorporated in 1686, while Tomsk was established in 1694. Under Peter the Great in 1721, Estonia, Ingria, Livonia, and Karelia were made part of the empire. Russian Alaska was established in 1733, and Southwest Karelia was conquered after the Russo-Swedish War of 1741-43. Queen Catherine the Great then oversaw some serious territorial gains, including Kalmykia in 1771, Eastern Belarus in 72, Kabardino in 74, Crimea in 83, Yerevan in 92, the rest of Belarus and right bank Ukraine in 93, and Western Galicia and Southern Masovia in 95. Alaska became fully conquered in 1799. Then Alexander I also oversaw a lot of territorial expansion, including Eastern Georgia in 1801, Finland in 1809, Western Georgia in 1810, Bessarabia in 1812, and the Duchy of Warsaw in 1813. And then Russia expanded even further into the Caucasus with the Russo-Persian Wars of 1804 to 1813 and 1826 to 28, in which Russia... Actually, to read from Hikmah history, you want to help explain what happened here?
Sure. In the early 19th century, the Russian and Persian empires fought two wars that were going to decide the fate of the Caucasus region. The first war, from 1804 until 1813, ended with a decisive Russian victory, which was concluded with the Treaty of Gulistan in 1813. This treaty determined that Persia would cede parts of what is now Georgia, Dagestan, northern Armenia, and Azerbaijan to Russia. The latter war was much shorter than the first one, lasting only from 1826 until 1828. But just like the first one, it ended conclusively in the favor of Russia, which imposed the Treaty of Turkmenchay in 1828 on the Persians. who were forced to cede the rest of what is now Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the province of Igdir to Russia. So as you can see, these wars were how much of the Caucasus region was ceded to Russia after previously being under Persian control. If you want to learn more about this, please check out the video I did on my channel, Hikmah History, as part of this collaboration.
Thanks, Tariq. I didn't, of course, just force him into the video just to do a tiny bit of my work for me. We're actually collaborating this week, with his video being on the treaties of Gulistan and Turkmenchai, which ended each of those wars and ceded control of the Caucasus from Persian to Russian hands. So be sure to check out his video once this one's done. Back to the history, Russia then expanded into what makes up the Amur Oblast, Jewish Autonomous Oblast, Khabarovsk Krai, and Primorsky Krai, taking these lands from the Qing Dynasty in the Second Opium War in the late 1850s. Vladivostok was founded in 1860, making this Russian city younger than Portland, Oregon. Yeah, this place is hella remote. Around this time, Kazakhstan gradually came fully under Russian hands, and in 1866, Bukhara was conquered in eastern Uzbekistan. In 1867, Alaska, now proving itself to be more trouble than it was worth for a nation constantly fighting all these wars several thousand kilometers away, was sold to the US at $7.2 million, roughly $109 million in 2020 US dollars. Though maybe it's also worth mentioning that Alaska's GDP these days is more like $47 billion, but still. Alexander II may have lost Alaska, but he also gained northern Turkmenistan in 1873, Sakhalin in 1875, Kyrgyzstan and West Tajikistan in 1876, and the Kars and Batum Oblasts in the same year. All this was finally finished with the conquest of Alexander III in southern Turkmenistan in 1885 and East Tajikistan in 1893, 4 years after Anadyr was founded. Finally, with its heartland now very well defended, Russia was a global superpower to be reckoned with, so big that it almost bordered the UK, in Asia, and was now the most powerful nation on the planet. I'm just kidding, its economy totally sucked, and so did all its ports. Oh, and also the monarchy was on its last legs. Communism time! This video may have, at least hopefully, shown how Russia came to be such a big country, but I kind of cut everything off as soon as we reached the 20th century. However, as probably everyone who watches my videos knows, Russia was a big hitter in the 20th century, and there really is no better place to learn about all that than on this week's sponsor, CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is an online educational documentary streaming platform that features thousands of insanely high-quality documentaries for you to choose from, including some about Russia, such as Stalin Trotsky, A Battle to Death. They don't just feature documentaries about history and politics though, although there are a lot of those, but also space, nature, physics, cuisine, technology, culture, and so many others that is virtually insane. You can get a subscription to CuriosityStream for $2.99 per month or $19.99 for the whole year, which is honestly an absolute steal, especially if you go to curiositystream.com/KhAnubis or click the link below and use the coupon code KhAnubis for a 30-day free trial. For that, you will not only get access to thousands of amazing documentaries, but you will also help support the channel. Thank you as always for watching, and be sure to check out Hikmah History's video now that this video is done. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to learn something new every Sunday.